Hey friends, my name's Chrissy and welcome back to Stronger Every Day. It's great to be with you all. So today is kind of, the same thing we do every Monday as we kind of dive in and talk about living with depression and anxiety as a Christian and what that kind of means to you. Sorry, my notes and my Bible are moving over here on me where I have them pinned to talk about today. So a lot of times we talk about getting through, right? How do we get through depression and anxiety? How do we overcome it? Does God care, right? Are we being punished for something that we've done? So I found it interesting. I found a few verses that kind of talk about suffering, and that's a very kind word to use when you struggle with depression and anxiety. And we've talked in detail before that there is a difference in situational depression and then living with depression and anxiety and how that can affect us on a day in and day out basis. And friends, it's exhausting mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, all the things. I talked to Nick today actually about, you guys know this past few months has been just a whirlwind. And on a side note, since so many of you have prayed and just really blessed my family and all your prayers, I wanted to give you an update that Nick got some blood work back this past week, and it is all normal. And friends, that in itself is God moving. He's got a ways to go to get back healthier, but one of the big issues that he was having was his CK level. And I know that probably doesn't mean much to many of you, but it was way off the chart high, which that's what clued them in that something major was wrong. And then his liver, kidneys, all of those levels were just off the chart. Not as high as the CK level, but most people that I guess have a CK level in the 5,000s a lot of times are hospitalized, probably situational, depending, right? Age, other factors. His was 22,000. And while he was in the hospital, he spent, I think, a total of 8 days in the hospital with two trips. He wasn't quote unquote hospitalized to the severity that I think some people are when they have something similar to what he has. But yes, big praise report there. Also, another praise report with me. I'm fairly open about this topic, and if you're a man on here, you may want to just tune out. But with it being October, we'll go ahead and talk about this. We have a family history of breast cancer in our family. My mom and my grandmother both had breast cancer. Those are the two that I'm aware that had breast cancer. And so for many years, I've been having routine mammograms. I've had a couple of diagnostic mammograms, several ultrasounds. In the middle of all this going on, Memorial Day weekend, the Friday, that morning, I had my mammogram. That mid-morning, we took Nick back to the hospital and came home Memorial Day, I think, or the Sunday before. I can't remember. We were there two and a half days. Came back. We were obviously closed that Monday. Came back in that Tuesday, and they let me know that they had found a spot and that they thought that it was probably maybe a cyst, but obviously without a biopsy they couldn't be certain. And my faith is always in God first and foremost. However, but with that being said, if I work for someone, I think you're good. I don't just work there because, if I think you're a bad person or bad provider or bad whatever. So obviously I have trust in these providers. And so I talked with him about it. I talked with Nick about it. And I said, right now, I don't have the mental fortitude to do anything about this. So we're going to push it off. And then as Nick has gotten a little bit better progressively, and I had more mental space to deal with the possibility, we did a breast biopsy this past Monday, and it came back benign. So that was a huge thing. Same day, actually, I got my results that the biopsy was benign, and Nick got his result, his blood work results, that all of his levels were back in normal. And so what that means for him in particular is that it's going to be day by day, one step at a time. He's been released to do what your body allows and then stop you know, if you're not feeling good or feeling tired or feeling weak, and understand that you're going to feel tired and weak, and just listen to your body basically. And so that's probably one of the best things we've heard in a long time in reference to his health, and just really needed that just double blessing of good news that day. So back to talking about kind of living with depression and anxiety as a Christian and what that means, and just suffering, right? I think we can say suffering is a semi-adequate word. I wouldn't say it describes the full extent of living with depression and anxiety, but it's a good word. It's definitely one I would reference in reference to depression and anxiety. So I wanted to talk about, I found a couple verses, and this is in relation to how do you stay close to God. Actually, let's start with this. This is a big one. Does God even care? Right? Does God even care about my suffering? Does God even care about any of the things that are going on? Psalms 22:24, for he has not ignored or belittled the sufferings of the needy. He has not turned his back on them. He has listened to their cries for help. God's always right there listening. Friends, don't be surprised of the fury trials you're going through. This is 1 Peter 4:12 through 13. Don't be surprised of the fury trials you're going through as something strange that's happening to you. Instead, be very glad, for these trials make you partners with Christ in his suffering, and you will have wonderful joy of seeing the glory when it's revealed to the world. John 16:33 is one that I love. I've told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart, I've overcome the world. I could keep going and going and going and going. One thing that I love is he talks about he knows every tear that we've cried. God is not oblivious to what's going on in our life. He has not turned his back on us. Does he want us to have a life of depression and anxiety? No. That's not why he came, right? That's not why he created us. However, we live in a broken world. And so whether it's environmental or whether it is whatever is going on in your life, or that's happened to you in your childhood or currently happening to you, or, you know, not having enough money to buy food, rent, electricity, water, maybe looking at the verge of being homeless, or maybe you are homeless. We were just talking the other day to my mother-in-law about a man that works for the business she works for, is homeless and lives in a tent on the property. I don't think that's as rare as we make it out to be. These are hard times that we're going through, not just financially, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all the things. And I think sometimes we think, God, where are you? Or, you know, does God even care that I'm suffering? What I can tell you with someone that has struggled with this for 29 years is I know that I know that I know that no matter how bad it's gotten with me, and friends, it's been horrible. That's the most polite word I can use for it. It's been terrible. It's been horrible. It's been surreal. It's been something that I never thought I would be here today talking to you. Many times I was done with life and didn't want to keep going anymore. I've prayed on thousands of times, God, just bring me home. I just want to come home. I don't want to be here anymore. One thing I've known throughout the entire time, and I'm not what I would consider, when I look at different maturities of Christians, and by maturity I mean, you know, how long have you been a Christian? How long have you actually been a committed Christian? So you're actually studying the Word, reading the Word, praising God, praying, talking to Him on a daily basis. That's what I mean by maturity. And I don't feel that I'm anywhere close to where I want to be. Even in the younger times, I know that God was with me every second of the day. I guess have been blessed that I've never had to question, God, where are you? That doesn't mean that my life's been smooth sailing or that I haven't had horrible things that have happened. There's been things that I don't have an explanation for. I don't get it, and I'm probably not going to get it until I'm on the other side in heaven, right? gave up a long time ago of feeling the need to know why. Like, I feel like when you're a kid, you want to know why. Well, don't touch that, it's hot. Why? Don't touch that, it's, you know, don't do this. Don't throw the ball towards the window. Don't touch the stove. Don't ride your bike in the middle of the interstate. Don't run with a knife in your hand. I mean, there's all the things, and we always want to know why, or, you know, why did this happen? Why am I having to go through this? Friends, what I can tell you is through all of this pain and all of this torment and all of the things that I've went through, God has carried me through. There is no other explanation for why I'm still here, if not for God. I know that there are people that struggle with this question. Does God even care about my suffering? Yes. If no one has told you this before, yes. I've talked in depth about depression and anxiety. Sometimes it is things that we have done to ourselves, right? If you are an alcoholic and you are drinking 24/7 and you've lost your family, you've lost your friends, you've lost your job, that is on you, right? Does it matter at the moment? No. It's about getting better. It's about fixing the situation and getting better. If you're using illegal drugs, or if you're using prescribed drugs inappropriately, maybe that's on you. If you do things that are outside of God's will and you know they are, and you continue to do them and your life is spiraling, sure. Sometimes the things we do cause us depression and anxiety. Sometimes the things that other people do cause us depression and anxiety. Sometimes just living causes us depression and anxiety. We've talked about for a long time now that I feel like I'm on an upward hill, right? I'm at my level. I'm not on a hill. I've come out of the pit and I'm on my level, and I've been there for a couple years. I've talked in detail that there's still bad days. It's been a bad month. And I was talking to Nick today and I said, I really don't know per se what's going on, except for me, Chrissy, I want nothing more than to be God's hands and feet. I want people to see him through me every single day. It's almost like I'm trying to make up for lost time for when I wasn't doing as much for God as I'm trying to do now, right? And by that I mean I was a Christian, but I fit God into my schedule when it was convenient, instead of the way I'm trying to do it now, which is God's first and everything else fits into the schedule. What I'm struggling with though is that I'm exhausted a lot. And I'm not taking adequate time to recoup, if that makes sense. So for me, I'm more of an introvert. And for me to be God's hands and feet, I mean, there's sometimes when something will come out of my mouth and there's no way it's Chrissy, because I wouldn't have phrased it that way. I wouldn't have said it that way. It wasn't a thought process in my mind. It just came out, and I'm grateful for that. I want God to be in control of my life. When I get home, I'm exhausted though, and I'm not giving myself adequate time to reset. Nick and I just talked about this as well today, that I have got to start taking time to just be away, just relax, a little self-care. I even Googled self-care today, trying to figure out what is something that I can do for self-care that can help me reboot, right, and re-energize so that I can continue doing what I'm doing. I think we think sometimes that if we just keep putting ourselves last, that's what God's called us to do, and that's not true. You can't pour from an empty cup. That doesn't mean there's days that I get up and I think, man, I don't feel like doing this today. I'm just tired. You have to push through those. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you push through on the days that you might not necessarily, there's always days that you're like, I don't want to do that, but you need to do it, right? Pushing through on those days. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about giving yourself grace, having some self-care, and I am depleted. And part of it's been the year that we've had. Part of it's been that I haven't adequately been able to really take care of myself per se, because there's just been other things going, and now my body's saying I've had enough. And so it's learning that. Does God care about us when we struggle? Yes. Whether it's struggling with a broken arm, a broken leg, a vehicle breaking down, being homeless, looking at foreclosure, whether it's trying to find a job or pass a test or whatever that looks like for you. Yes, friends, God cares. He cares when you're not happy. He cares when you're struggling. I think we try to think about all the things that are going to make us happy. And friends, if I can tell you one thing, there's nothing wrong with having things as long as you're not attached, married to them per se, right? There's nothing wrong with maybe buying yourself a pair of earrings. I don't have money in, but buying yourself a pair of earrings, or buying yourself something to wear, buying yourself dinner, buying a new car, buying a new home, buying whatever. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're in line with God's will. I get on the flip side of that I deserve nothing. And honestly, I still feel that way. That I really don't deserve anything. And apart from God, I don't. And I'm working on that. That's something from growing up, that I always felt inadequate and that I wasn't good enough, and I was told that on a routine basis. And so it's struggling to see past that, right? It's struggling to see that in fact someone does care when I'm suffering, and that's God. It's hard to picture because when you're told one thing and then you're told another, so told one thing from a family or friend and then told another from the Bible and God's Word, it's hard to sometimes understand. But what I can tell you is this, is that no matter the reason for your depression and anxiety, God loves you. His love is unchanging. It's not going to change based on what you do. I've talked about this. If you have kids, or if you're married, or let's say your best friend, let's take a kid for example. If you are mom or dad and you've told your kid, don't throw the ball next to the window, don't throw the ball next to the window, don't throw the ball next to the window, you're a repeated broken record saying this, and they throw the ball and break the window. Do you not love your kid anymore? Of course you love your kid. You don't love what they did, but you love your kid. That's the very basic, generic way I can describe God's love for us. He doesn't necessarily love what we do all the time, but we're still his kids. He loves us. He cares when we're suffering. He's happy when we're happy. He loves us unconditionally. I think that's hard for us to comprehend because we don't know how to love that way. I know we say that, I love you unconditionally. I will say I've never come across a love that I've felt is 100% unconditional outside of God. Do I love my husband? Yes. Do I love my family? Yes. Would I do anything for them? Yes. But I'll tell you now, when I come home and Nick's dropped his laundry all over the floor and he's put all his little pocket things, he carries all these things in his pocket. They're strewn all over the counter. And I come in and there's beard hair in the sink. I mean, I'm not real enthused with him at the moment, right? So in essence, my love is conditional because he's ticking me off. But that doesn't mean I don't love him, right? Same with me. I do things all the time that irritate him. In particular, if you, I'm bad about, there's always toilet paper in the bathroom. There's always extra, right? I'm not the best at replacing the toilet roll, and that drives him absolutely insane. None of us are perfect, right? But to say that I feel like someone here on earth loves me unconditionally, I don't feel that. I feel love. I feel loved, but not that. So question one is, does God care when we're suffering? Yes. These are just a few verses. 1 Peter 5:10, Psalms 23:4, John 11:33 through 35, Isaiah 53 through 3, John 16:13. Are all some good ones. The flip side of that question, and I'm going to end the video here and then we'll start another one. And so it's going to be, how do you stay close to God in the middle of the suffering? And ooh, sometimes that can be hard for some of us, right? It can be hard when life isn't easy and fun to still stay focused and not ask that question, God, where are you? So we're going to end this part of the video here, friends. It's always my heart and hope that you feel this. God loves you. I love you. Your friends, your family love you. And we need you here. We'll see you in the next one, friends. Bye.